Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're trying to figure out where the publishing industry is heading, maybe what genres are hot right now, what tropes are actually converting readers, and, what mechanics are driving sales, then yeah, you've definitely come to the right place.
That's right.
Today, we are putting down the skimming pile, I guess, and diving deep into the actual bestseller lists, the search trends, the market reports, because we are tackling one of the biggest questions in publishing today. What are readers really hunting for in 2025?
It is such a critical mission, really, for anyone trying to navigate this landscape, because the market, it's really moved past simple passive genre browsing. Like, that's kind of over.
Right.
Our sources show readers they're not just looking for a book anymore. They're hunting for specific, very targeted experiences. And we've kind of distilled this down to three, you could say, dominant reader desires that are driving the whole industry right now.
Yeah, and the dominance of these three pillars is, well, it's almost overwhelming when you look at it. First, you've got this unstoppable force of romantasy, and the key is it has to deliver a big, immediate, really satisfying emotional payoff.
Mm-hmm. That payoff is key.
Totally. Second, there's the enduring power of thrillers. But specifically, those high-concept reads, the ones with those rug-pull twists, the ones that feel earned but genuinely leave you stunned.
Yeah, the ones everyone talks about.
Exactly.
And then flipping over to nonfiction, the market's really favoring self-help that promises tangible, like real change. Self-help that actually converts to action, right? And delivers clarity maybe in an uncertain world. It's the difference between, say, reading an interesting philosophy and getting an actual tactical roadmap you can use tomorrow.
That makes sense. And what's fascinating here, tying all this success together, are these two primary kind of interconnected forces. They've completely redefined discoverability. So we have this sustained, just explosive velocity of romance and romantasy powering print sales.
Still powering it, yeah.
And the absolute fact that BookTok is still emphatically moving mountains. I mean, this market is now fundamentally fueled by trope-based discovery. And that changes everything about how books get found, how they get bought.
It really does. And if we don't understand the mechanisms behind that discovery, well, the data itself is kind of meaningless, isn't it?
True.
So let's unpack this. Let's anchor the conversation with some hard, irrefutable data from the primary sources.
Okay, so let's start with Circana's BookScan data for 2024. The numbers here, they tell a story of a market recovery that maybe a lot of people might have missed.
Yeah, and what's really crucial to understand is the context of 2024. So U.S. print units, they ticked up to approximately 783 million for the year.
783 million.
Okay, and that figure, 783 million, it's significant because it marks the first annual rise in 3 years. That's a key turning point, really, since the market peaked back in 2021, during that peak pandemic reading surge.
Right, that massive spike.
Exactly. That 2021 high was always going to come down a bit, naturally. But 2024 proved the market has stabilized. It seems to have found a new, maybe higher growth trajectory.
Okay, so we've kind of recovered that dip from the peak, but what's actually providing the momentum? It's probably not a general tide lifting all boats equally, is it?
No, not at all. The engine, the real driver behind that recovery and the overall growth, is adult fiction. That category saw a really robust 4.8% rise in units sold overall.
Almost 5%, wow.
Yeah, but when you dig inside that fiction data, the story shifts from just growth to, well, frankly, explosion.
I think I see where you're going. This is about the specific categories, fantasy and romance.
Absolutely. Fantasy was the fastest climbing category in 2024. It showed a massive plus 35.8% increase, just huge.
36%.
Yeah, and this surge, it isn't really your traditional high fantasy of old. Our sources make it abundantly clear this is a trend fueled almost entirely by that blended subgenre, romantasy.
Right. The powerhouses there are just undeniable. We're talking about authors like Sarah J. Maas, who basically defined this whole market segment, right?
Very much, yeah.
And Rebecca Yarros, who showed how quickly a phenomenon can scale using that blend of fantasy world building and really explicit romantic tension. They established this repeatable, highly addictive model.
They really did.
Yeah.
And that model, it basically drove the entire category. So if 2024 set the foundation for this growth, Q1 2025, the first quarter of this year, showed that the acceleration wasn't just continuing, it was actually intensifying.
Wow.
Romance remained the leading growth category in adult fiction year over year. The demand is just relentless.
Okay, I have to pause on this Q1 data for a second because when we look at the subgenres, we see not just growth, but like you said, velocity. So Romantasy, which we've established is the current fiction titan, and interestingly, sports romance both posted triple-digit growth year over year in Q1 2025. Triple digits. That's staggering.
It is staggering.
What's the fundamental appeal tying those two, seemingly disparate subgenres together?
That's a brilliant question, actually.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, they seem worlds apart, right? Sports and fantasy romance.
Totally.
Yet they are united by one critical factor: intense, often immediate, and highly predictable emotional fulfillment. That's the key.
Ah, okay.
So sports romance, it provides the high stakes, right? The focused tension, the competition, and the guaranteed happily ever after, the HEA, or at least a happy for now, HFN. The sort of low-friction reading that delivers maximum emotional payoff.
Right. You know what you're getting.
Exactly. And Romantasy does the same thing, essentially, but it layers in that addictive world building and the escape of magic systems and, fantastical elements.
With sense.
Yeah, so both genres succeed because they lean really heavily on very clear, well-trodden, satisfying tropes. Things like found family, enemies to lovers, grumpy sunshine.
Classics.
The classics. The reader knows exactly what they're signing up for. And that triple-digit growth proves they're willing to buy immediately and often when that emotional promise is clearly delivered. That kind of growth, it's not driven by gentle browsing. It's driven by intense, targeted desire.
Yeah, absolutely. And crucially, this isn't just a domestic appetite here in the US, right? The global data confirms this powerful shift toward high-emotion fiction.
That's a great point. Let's look at the UK market for context. UK sales data from 2023 to 2024 showed that sci-fi and fantasy, or SFF, sales jumped about 41% year over year.
41%.
A huge jump. And just like in the US, the analysis explicitly links this massive surge directly to Romantasy and, again, the ripple effect of BookTok influence. It's the same pattern.
Okay, this gives us a really crucial broader signal then about reader prioritization. Because while overall UK fiction sales rose, you noted that some specific nonfiction segments actually softened a bit.
Yes, and this is a huge strategic takeaway, I think. Readers are actively, maybe even consciously, fleeing toward these escapist, high-emotion story worlds. We see a strategic prioritization of, emotional catharsis and imaginative escape over maybe practical, sometimes stressful knowledge absorption. Why spend your limited reading time plowing through a dense policy analysis or a niche self-improvement book when you can grab a high-velocity romantasy that delivers guaranteed emotional ROI?
Right, that guaranteed hit.
Exactly. That shift in time allocation, it really highlights this societal need, maybe, for escape and reliable satisfaction right now.
It almost seems like the market is rewarding books that promise to handle your emotions for you, whether that's thrilling you, making you swoon, or giving you a clear path forward, and maybe penalizing books that feel a bit like homework.
That's a perfect summary.
Yeah.
The key metric of success in 2025 seems to be reliable emotional delivery, period.
Okay, so we know what is selling and where the growth is coming from. Now let's see how that market pulse translates into specific titles, like right now on the actual charts.
Okay, so looking at the current bestseller charts, specifically the snapshots from late September 2025, the pattern is immediately clear. The lists are just dominated by pace, payoff, and discoverability. It's this blend of established names and, viral hits. That's the current norm.
Right. We can start maybe with the digital front. Looking at the Apple Books charts, Dan Brown's new thriller is leading the charge for both ebooks and audiobooks. What does the consistent success of an established name like Brown tell us about the current market? Is it just brand loyalty?
Well, it speaks to the enduring value of reliability, especially in the thriller genre. When a reader picks up a Dan Brown, they know exactly what they're getting, right?
Yeah. High stakes, puzzles.
High stakes international intrigue, rapid pacing, complex puzzle box plotting. And the world is just saturated with new content. That brand reliability is its own kind of emotional ROI. He promises a high pace, high space read, and he delivers it consistently. That trust converts to immediate guaranteed sales, especially in those low friction formats like ebook and audiobook.
Makes sense. And right there, alongside the established giants like Brown, is the continued phenomenon of the psychological thriller, perfectly exemplified by someone like Freida McFadden. She continues her remarkable tear through the lists.
Well, McFadden is basically the modern template for this thriller market, isn't she? She highlights that persistent reader demand for that sharp, twisty psychological experience. People aren't just looking for danger, they're looking for the surprise.
Yeah, the twist.
The twist. They reward authors who deliver that clean, satisfying rug pull twist
Yeah.
that makes you gasp and then immediately want to tell someone about it. Recommend the book.
I want to focus specifically on her success in the Publisher's Weekly list because the source highlights her for consistently stacking wins in the trade paper format. Why is dominating trade paperback sales such a strategic victory in 2025?
Oh, it's a huge signal. It tells us about consumption velocity and accessibility. The trade paperback, it's the perfect format for mass market penetration, right?
Mm.
It's the format that basically says, I saw this book on BookTok yesterday, I grabbed it at Target or the airport kiosk today, and now I'm tossing it in my beach bag.
Right, it's that immediate, low-friction purchase conversion. Impulse buy, almost.
Exactly. And it's easier to display in non-traditional outlets outside of dedicated bookstores. Think pharmacies, airport shops, big grocery chains. When an author consistently dominates that accessible, high-volume format, it signals that the word of mouth is traveling so fast, it's actually outpacing the traditional distribution systems.
Wow.
It's a volume game. And that format is the fastest way to get a book into millions of hands quickly, which, of course, often fuels the next viral wave on social media.
Right, right. Okay, shifting to nonfiction for a sec, you see that third pillar we identified earlier. Self-help that actually converts. Mel Robbins consistently holds a top-tier slot on these lists. How is her success maybe different from older styles of self-help?
Well, Mel Robbins is a master of platform nonfiction. Her success, and the success of others like her, it's tied directly to the promise of instant, actionable change. This isn't passive advice that might take 5 years to implement.
Right.
It's high-energy, high-clarity content that often comes with a simple, memorable tactic, like her 5-second rule. The emotional ROI for her readers is that she delivers control and clarity in a highly digestible format. The reader walks away feeling equipped to immediately address a problem, which is, immensely valuable in uncertain economic or social times.
Yeah, that feeling of agency.
Sure. Excellent.
So if we zoom out then to the full Publisher's Weekly U.S. bestseller picture, you really see that blend you mentioned. The high-paced thrillers, the occasional lighter beach-read fiction, and of course this platform nonfiction. But the sustained presence of those fiction growth engines, fantasy and romantasy, that's what really catches the eye week after week.
Absolutely. The fantasy and romantasy editions, they are consistently holding multiple chart positions, often spanning backlist titles and new releases at the same time.
Right. Not just the new one.
No, this is the definition of sustained series momentum. Readers are not just picking up book one, they are committed to the entire world, the whole cast of characters, the continued emotional arc. This commitment, it simultaneously fuels new release purchases and backlist sales, making sure these series maintain market dominance far longer than most standalone titles could.
Okay, so the chart analysis completely confirms it. Readers prioritize speed, emotional validation, and that low-friction access. But none of this velocity is possible without knowing how they are finding these books in the first place, which takes us right to the heart of the 2025 market. The discovery revolution.
Yeah, this section gets into what I think is the most significant behavioral shift we've seen in reader habits over, say, the last 5 years. The way readers interact with digital storefronts, with search engines, it has fundamentally changed. They're no longer just searching broadly for young adult or mystery.
Right. They're searching for the specific emotional and narrative building blocks that make up a story. It's a definite shift from searching by genre to searching by intent, and that intent is communicated through tropes.
Precisely. Readers are seeking a very tailored, almost customized emotional experience now. They have specific tastes, and they know the language to articulate them. The illustrative examples of search terms we see popping up are phenomenal. Things like enemies to lovers, found family, slow burn fantasy romance, or even the highly targeted books like Fourth Wing, which basically acts as a search shortcut for a specific blend of tropes and intensity level.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It confirms they're using the language of fandom, the language of community to navigate the market. They're effectively crowdsourcing their next read based on these shared emotional markers.
And we see the demand validated across key consumer platforms, too. Check out Goodreads' 2025 most anticipated romantasy roundups. They reinforce this hyper-specific demand. The reader is looking for a known quantity of combined elements. It's got to have magic plus heat plus heart.
Right, that specific recipe.
Exactly. This level of precision in demand, it feeds directly into the algorithms, making discoverability incredibly efficient. The search is already halfway to the sale, you could argue.
And the engine driving the conversion of that search intent into actual sales, well, It remains book talk. We have to, again, just emphasize the scale here because book talk isn't just some trend. It is the dominant discovery platform that converts viewers into buyers, period.
Yeah, we really have to acknowledge the critical metric here. Multiple industry briefs this year attribute approximately 59 million U.S. print sales in 2024 directly to BookTok creators and content.
59 million, that number is just...
It's huge. And this figure, it's derived from Circana BookScan data, so it's solid. It's proof positive that BookTok is a marketplace force that dictates trends, resurrects backlists, and generates new bestsellers almost overnight.
That 59 million figure, it's almost hard to grasp without context. How is Circana actually measuring that influence? Is it direct tracking or...
It's a methodology that relies on tracking the velocity of titles. So they look at titles that experience these sudden, massive spikes in sales immediately following sustained social media promotion, and specifically content created by BookTok communities.
Oh, okay. Correlation.
Right. It demonstrates that the short-form video review loop converts directly to purchase at an unparalleled rate. Why? Because the recommendations are coming from peers, or at least relatable creators. That generates high trust and immediate buying impulse. It completely bypasses the traditional marketing funnel we used to talk about.
I see. So it's not just word of mouth. It's like rapid, high-trust word of mouth delivered basically right next to a purchase link.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the speed at which that word of mouth travels now, it fundamentally changes the window of opportunity for marketing. If a book catches fire today, the purchasing surge happens within like 24 to 48 hours, not across weeks like it used to.
Right. Wow. Okay, before we move into the why behind all this amazing velocity, there's a crucial strategic detail we pulled from the source material about timing, and that's seasonality, specifically within the romance and romantasy space.
Yes, this is a concrete pro tip for you, the listener. For those targeting these high-velocity romance and romantasy markets, independent trend analyses show significant predictable summer spikes for trending romance queries, specifically peaking during July and August 2025.
Okay, so if you are timing a launch or maybe a specific promotional campaign, a new series drop, or, and this is critical for many authors in this space, a Kindle Unlimited push for this kind of high emotion fiction, aiming for that summer window is a concrete, data-supported strategic move.
Absolutely. You want your product to be visible and searchable precisely when reader intent is highest. Readers are kind of conditioned to look for their beach reads during that window, right?
Yeah, totally.
And the data proves the search volume aligns perfectly with that cultural expectation. Understanding how they search and when they search is just as vital as knowing what they ultimately buy.
Okay, so we have the velocity, the list patterns, and the discovery mechanics. Let's try and synthesize it all now into the two core underlying forces that really explain market success in 2025. Why do these specific genres hit with such intensity? All right, we've established that 2025 market success seems to be powered by these two main forces working together. Let's start with force number one, pure emotional return on investment, ROI.
Yeah, this is essentially the psychological contract between the author and the reader. Every book purchased, especially these viral ones we're talking about, offers a specific, measurable psychological benefit, something that justifies the reader's time, their money, their emotional energy.
Okay, let's break down the ROI for the growth leaders then. Why are romance and romantasy delivering such high emotional returns right now?
Well, they provide catharsis, definitely,
Yeah.
and also a powerful sense of community. The plots often involve overcoming impossible odds to achieve that guaranteed happy ending. That whole emotional arc, the journey through tension, longing, eventual resolution, it's deeply cathartic for many readers. But equally important, I think, is the community aspect.
Yeah.
When you engage with these huge viral series, you gain access to this massive global community of readers. They're all discussing the same ships, arguing over the same world-building rules, creating fan content. You're buying a book, sure, but you're also kind of buying access to a tribe.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, and the thrillers, the psychological thrillers, the domestic suspense, what's their specific ROI?
They offer safe adrenaline and, critically, those talk-worthy twists. Readers are seeking a controlled, high-stakes, emotional environment where they can feel fear, feel surprise, but without any real-world risk.
Right, contained danger.
Exactly. And the twist, that unexpected narrative maneuver, it's part of the social currency of the book. You want to talk to someone about that twist. It's a shared cultural experience that validates the purchase and makes you feel part of an in-group.
Okay, and the high-converting self-help titles, we touched on this.
Yeah, as we discussed with someone like Mel Robbins, the ROI there is control and clarity. In a world that often feels chaotic, These books promise an optimized self, or at least a highly detailed, tactical path toward one. They function as a kind of mental toolkit.
Got it.
The fact that the sales leaders and the list leaders track so directly to delivering these clear, repeatable emotional promises, it just proves that readers are buying solutions for their emotional or organizational needs first and foremost.
That makes perfect sense. Which brings us directly to force number 2, algorithmic discoverability. This is the mechanical side of things, the system that ensures the emotional promise actually reaches the intended buyer.
And the algorithmic tools, they've learned the language of emotional ROI perfectly. Trope tags, short-form recommendations, creator clips. These aren't just marketing tools anymore. They're highly effective, highly targeted distribution mechanisms. They effectively bypass the physical bookstore shelf and the traditional review process almost entirely.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The algorithmic system effectively flattens the distance, as you said, between a reader's specific desire, that emotional intent, and the final buy button. There's almost zero friction left.
Exactly. Think about the journey. A reader searches slow burn fantasy romance because they're feeling a specific emotional need, right? The algorithm serves up a BookTok clip highlighting maybe a 10-second gasp-worthy line that perfectly encapsulates that trope. The reader taps the link in the bio, buys the book instantly, and boom, the emotional contract is fulfilled. Just like that.
And that 59 million sales figure tied to BookTok is the ultimate proof of this efficiency. It shows just how rapidly discovery now travels and converts directly to purchase. The book almost just needs to contain enough high-impact, short-form content snippets to capture a creator's attention.
And the conversion is basically handled by the platform itself. The lesson here is that a book doesn't just need a compelling plot anymore. It needs algorithmic hooks. It needs metadata and content moments that can be instantly identified by both the reader and the platform. Success, in many ways, is engineered now.
Okay, so now we take all that analysis, all that understanding, and turn it into actionable, practical strategy for anyone listening, authors, publishers, marketers, looking to align their creation or their marketing with this current reader behavior.
Right. The primary strategic directive, based on everything we've seen, is pretty much non-negotiable. You absolutely must lead with the promise and the trope.
Okay, so this means authors, publishers, everyone involved needs to shift their focus away from maybe those dense literary plot summaries you see on jacket copy or marketplace descriptions sometimes. You have to lead with a promise.
Exactly. Your hook, your main description, it has to signal the feeling and the trope immediately, because this is the specific, searchable language readers are actually using. So instead of saying maybe a coming-of-age story about a young woman who joins an elite military academy, you need to signal enemies to lovers in a high-stakes Dragon Rider academy with heavy found family elements.
Much clearer, more specific.
Right. The latter communicates the emotional contract instantly. It tells the reader exactly what kind of experience they're signing up for.
And it's about communication clarity, right? The market absolutely rewards precise positioning. You need that subgenre clarity that the algorithm can instantly recognize and categorize.
Yes. If the core arc of your story is built on magic plus romance, you must market it clearly as romantasy. Please, do not call it adult fantasy with romantic elements. The language needs to be precise.
Okay.
Similarly, if your story's engine is driven by tension plus clues in a domestic setting, you need to lean heavily into psychological thriller or domestic suspense. Use the terms readers search for.
Why is this hyper-specific alignment so crucial, though? Why can't I just say thriller or fantasy?
Because precision is what determines successful discoverability now. This clear alignment determines where your book is shelved digitally, how it gets recommended by algorithms, like Amazon's customers who bought this also bought feature, and ultimately how it gets found by those BookTok communities searching for that specific emotional experience. Vague positioning is probably the single biggest enemy of discoverability in the 2025 marketplace. It just gets lost.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's revisit seasonality quickly, but for application, we need to discuss strategic launch programming, especially for these high-growth segments.
Right. So if you are playing in the romance or romantasy markets, timing is a strategic asset you really cannot afford to waste. You should absolutely program your major promotional events, things like cover reveals, high-investment influencer outreach, or any big Kindle Unlimited pushes, specifically around those summer search surges we identified earlier in July and August.
Hit when they're looking.
Exactly. You want your marketing spend to align perfectly with peak reader intent. That guarantees maximum visibility and conversion during the busiest reading season for those genres.
Okay. And finally, the necessity of designing your content inherently for virality, designing for shareability, or what we're kind of calling writing the BookTok rail.
Yeah, this is about intentionally creating moments in your story that are ripe for short-form video consumption. Focus on creating content, maybe short quote graphics, character reaction images, identifying key scenes that spotlight a single high-impact element, a key trope playing out, a surprising character interaction, or even just a single gasp-worthy line of dialogue that can serve as a mini-trailer for the book.
So you are essentially pre-packaging the raw material that high-volume BookTok creators need to promote your book in like 30 seconds or less.
Exactly. You're making it easy for the community to do your marketing for you. And the data, remember that 59 million sales figure, it validates that this is where the buyers are and that this effort yields potentially massive returns. Success in 2025 is less about just hoping to be discovered and much more about engineering your book to be easily discoverable via the language of tropes and the mechanism of short-form video.
Okay. Before we wrap up, let's just hit those key numbers one more time, just to reinforce the scale of this seismic shift we've been discussing.
All right, let's run down the most important statistical takeaways again, just to really cement the picture of the 2025 market.
Okay, first, the market recovery. 783 million U.S. print books sold in 2024. Remember, that's the first annual rise since 2021.
Then the fiction engine. Adult fantasy was up a massive plus 36% in 2024, and that was overwhelmingly driven by Romantasy's popularity.
The current velocity is key. We saw triple-digit gains in Q1 2025 for both Romantasy and sports romance, proving that the acceleration is actually continuing.
Don't forget the global context. UK sci-fi and fantasy sales jumped plus 41% year over year, also led directly by that high-emotion Romantasy influence. Same pattern.
And maybe the biggest mechanism of discovery. BookTok influenced an estimated 59 million U.S. print sales in 2024. Just huge. Hashtag tag outro.
So the final synthesis here, I think, is pretty unequivocal. Readers in 2025 are making incredibly intentional choices. They are choosing emotion, they are choosing immersive worlds, and they are definitely choosing community-validated recommendations, often delivered by these highly efficient short-form videos.
Yeah, and success in this new landscape, it really hinges entirely on writing a book that delivers on a clear emotional promise and, crucially, packaging that book using the language readers actually use to search, the tropes, the specific emotional markers, the clear subgenres. You have to give your story the absolute best chance of finding its people through the algorithm.
Which leads us to a fascinating and maybe a bit of a provocative thought for you to explore after this deep dive. Since readers are so explicitly choosing experiences and emotional payoffs, delivered by specific, easily searchable tropes and validated by the collective community, what impact does this hyper-efficient, algorithm-driven system have on, say, traditional notions of literary merit? And does this mean that the algorithm itself is now fundamentally defining taste and shaping the next generation of readers' expectations? It's a compelling thought experiment, anyway, about the nature of art versus perhaps optimized product.
Definitely something to mull over until our next deep dive. We've put links to all the sources we discussed today, including those live list snapshots and the Circana report summaries in the show notes, so you can actually watch these trends in real time yourself. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.